Hey guys, Taylor here, and this week I want to talk about something that's really important, basically the foundation of why I started my business in the first place. My business is built on a lot of triads. I like to group things in groups of three. And so the main triad that kind of like represents the pillars of my brand, the foundational elements that make my brand a thing, are awareness, acceptance, and accountability. And I have several other triads that relate in sort of such a way, but that was really the first triad that I ever came up with for my business that represents what I do for clients. And so what I want to do is go through with you each individual element of these triads and talk about why they matter. Because we hear a lot about self-awareness, we hear a lot about reflection and mindfulness and journaling, and we just hear a lot of these like buzzwords. And I admit that I use a lot of these buzzwords in my business, but but you have to understand like really what it means to understand how it plays out in my business or how it plays out in your life if you interact with my business. So that's what I want to go through. Now, the first one is about awareness. I've talked about awareness a lot because without awareness, you can't have acceptance or accountability. Awareness has to be the first step, which is why everything that I do with people starts with creating extreme and new and deep self-awareness and self-understanding. But the reason I want to talk about it with you today is because a lot of people think that they're not self-aware, or that self-awareness is something you either have or you don't, and that there's no in between. But what I like to think of it as is that it's a spectrum. We all have self-awareness because we all have consciousness. There's a philosophical concept about consciousness, or a theory about consciousness, that even consciousness is on a spectrum, where all the animals and species of the world have some amount of consciousness, but we just happen to have a lot of it. So the fact that we have consciousness means that we are already self-aware to a pretty serious extent, which is awesome. But when we hear about self-awareness and insights and breakthroughs and personal power and emotional well-being in pop culture, we aggrandized it to think that it's something like that we don't already have some of, right? We think it's like this big idealized thing that we can't reach or something like that. So something I want to distinguish awareness from is insight. And insight is kind of like the next level of awareness, but I think that's one of those buzzwords that a lot of people get stuck on. They want to be insightful. They want to be really aware and understanding of themselves, but they feel as though insight isn't something that they can reach, or they don't even know how to reach it, or if it can be reached. And so the way I like to think about insight is awareness or self-understanding with some kind of purpose. What I mean by that is, let's say you woke up this morning and you got in your car and you turned it on, and the song that was on the radio just completely sent you into a rage. You just got so angry. You stormed out of the car, or stormed out of the driveway, or whatever, but you were just in a rage for a really long time, and it was extreme. Now, self-awareness would stop at just knowing, oh, that song, for whatever reason, really pissed me off or really triggered me. But insight is when you take that self-awareness and you think, okay, like, what does this mean? Why is this song a trigger? And better yet, what can I do differently in the future so that this is less of a trigger? So it's more just about like, how do I take this understanding that the song is a trigger and learn to use that in the future so that I know why that song is a trigger. Big thing is about the why, right? So the real question that I ask everybody who says, oh, I'm not self-aware, I'm not very insightful, is what do you want awareness for? Now, it's very subjective. It's very personal. A lot of people don't care. They really don't. And that's okay. We can all live our lives. People who come to me are the ones who want insight. They have awareness about a lot of different things, or they've been through traumas, or they just feel really stuck, and they don't know the whys. They don't know the why, and they don't know how then to move forward or make some kind of change. So that's where insight comes into it. So the real question is, what do you want awareness for? If you even want awareness. But here's a fun activity, and this is a very simple activity that I want you all to try to test just to prove your self-awareness. I want you to think for a second and rank your level, or grade or score your level of self-awareness. Now let's keep it as simple as possible. Let's do it on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is like you have no idea about anything about who you are, your interests, your behaviors, your desires, anything like that. And number 10 is like you've hit nirvana. You are so fully self-actualized, you know everything about yourself, everything makes sense, and you are just in flow all the time. So where would you scale? Where would you grade yourself on that scale? Now, as a hint, since this is one video, just doing this activity, it doesn't matter what you grade yourself, no matter what number you give, you are practicing a very high level of self-awareness. Even if you give yourself like a 1, the thought process that goes into grading yourself and grading your self-awareness requires a lot of self-awareness. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better about maybe not having self-awareness or struggling to find insights. Because even if you just think of a number grade for your self-awareness, that's a start.